Welcome GeoTrig. This is section 6.5, conditions for rhombuses, rectangles, and squares. The essential question is, how can you determine whether a parallelogram is a rhombus or a rectangle based on the diagonals? Let's begin. So you remember this section from last section. Remember the theorems we did? The two for the rhombus and one for the rectangle? Well, this section basically says they can be used to prove a parallelogram is a rhombus or rectangle, kind of backwards. So if you have the diagonals are perpendicular to each other, then ABCD is a rhombus. If you have congruent angles on a diagonal, it's bisecting both angles, then you have a rhombus. If the two diagonals are congruent, so AC is congruent to BD, then you have a rectangle. That's it. Let's try some examples. So can you pause the video? Alright, can you conclude that the parallelogram is a rhombus, a rectangle, or a square? Explain. So let's look at a rhombus first. Well, what's going on here is I got a diagonal, and I got it. These two angles are congruent. These are incongruent. So it's bisecting each of those angles. If I look at my properties, this one right here is about bisecting angles. So this is definitely a rhombus. So I'm going to say it's a rhombus. Because, explain why. Bisecting angles. Bisecting, whatever. Angles with the diagonal. Alright, so it's a rhombus. Is it a rectangle? No, we don't know any information to say that. And since it's not a square because we can't say the angles are all the same. Alright, next one. Pause the video. Alright, can I conclude this one is a rhombus, rectangle, or a square? Well, I know this is a right angle here. So since that's a right angle, I have perpendicular bisectors, and it's going to be this one right here. So if angle AC is perpendicular to BD, then I know it's a rhombus. So I can say, is it a rhombus? Yes, it's a rhombus. Because I'm going to say perpendicular diagonals. Diagonals. So rhombus because of perpendicular diagonals. Check. Is it a rectangle? Well, look at the information for the rectangle, we have to have congruent diagonals. Since this diagonal is just two of the one-tick lines, and this diagonal is two of the one-tick lines, these diagonals are actually the same length. So I can say it's a rectangle because the diagonals are congruent. Now if it's a rhombus and it's a rectangle, is it a square? Well, yeah, it's going to be a square. Because something that is a rhombus and is a rectangle must be a square. Because it's because it's a rhombus and rectangle. Good. If we go back to that Venn diagram, the square is a combination of both. So yes. Next one. Pause the video. Alright, for what value of x is the parallelogram ABCD a rhombus? So for parallelograms, we got the diagonal here. The diagonal has to be bisecting this angle. So set those expressions equal to each other. 6x minus 2 equals 4x plus 8. Solving for x, I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides. What you're going to get is 2x minus 2 equals 8. And then add 2 to both sides. You're going to get 2x, cancel, equals 10. Divide by 2. These cancel. You get x equals 5. So what value of x? X is 5. That's it.